Keith is in Stoke Newington. Keith, should things go back to the way they were? Good morning.
Absolutely not at all. What a disaster if we did. Going back to beginning, if you look at the history of going back, Attlee after the war bankrupted the country, and then Macmillan built it up slowly, Conservatives, and then we go through again to Harold Wilson and Callaghan, who bankrupted the country, Labour, and then we come to Thatcher, who then stopped the unions because they were destroying this country completely, and so many, with their stupid demands, they bankrupted so many countries. The country ended up bankrupt again, but she built it up to a booming economy, and then this idiot Blair and Bill and Ben, the flower pot men, Blair and Brown, came in promising everything to everybody, almost bankrupted, well, she did bankrupt this country and almost bankrupted the world, and then luckily the Conservatives got it back in power and slowly built it up, but then they got hit. They inherited Blair's bankruptcy, and they had to try and save the country from that. And only when you're bankrupt, you have to either sell assets or raise taxes to get us back onto track again.
Keith, and can I ask you, Keith?
Hang on a second, let me finish.
What do you mean, hang on a second?
No. Two more points.
Will it go like this? Labour bankrupted the country and the Tories brought it back. Is that what the 2 points are going to be?
But why are you laughing at that?
Because I think it's a slightly simplistic interpretation of history to just say Labour bankrupts the country and then the Tories save it.
I think you're very naive. You don't understand the issues.
Keith, come on. I think
facts that don't exist.
Okay, you just said that Tony Blair nearly bankrupted the world. Now, he's guilty of a lot of things, but I don't think you can go...
finish my point.
Okay, I'll tell you what, go on. No, you go. You go first.
All right, well, Starmer and his idiot gang are saying that the Conservatives have caused this financial situation we're in. That's a lie, because it's an international financial situation that's causing the problem. Kind
of like the global financial crash in 2008.
That the Conservatives is a lie. It's so corrupt. It's unbelievable. You remind me of Russia when the wall came down, and the East Russians getting very upset because the country was bankrupt, and
Keith, can I speak?
They could not earn the money they had before.
Keith, am I allowed to speak yet?
Germans. Well, I mean, I should go on for a couple of hours saying what you're.
Well, that's not how it works. We share. We give and we take on this programme, and it is my name above the door. So I think I'm permitted to speak at this moment in time. If you would allow me to. So it's quite interesting that you're accusing me of being naive, despite your description of the British political history of the last 100 years being Labour bankrupts the country and the Tories fix it.
Yes.
And you think in that maxim you can describe everything that's happened since the Second World War?
Yes.
And I'm the naive one. Right, okay, very good, that's fine. We come now to COVID and the war in Ukraine, and you're saying that the Tories are not responsible for these things. These are international problems and an international crisis.
Yeah.
So why is it that when there was a global financial crisis in 2008, you're saying that Tony Blair and Gordon Brown bankrupted the country and nearly the world? Yeah. Do you think that perhaps you might be looking at things through a slightly party political lens?
Disagree.
Well, okay, but you actually need to set out your reasoning for that. You can't just disagree based on a vibe, can you?
Well, let's go back to the fundamental philosophies of socialism and capitalism.
Why don't we stick to the fundamental philosophy of debt?
I am.
Let's do debt.
You've got to go. I will. You've got to go back to the root of it all.
Okay.
The root of it all is that every living creature that's ever lived, any type of life that's lived on this planet since time began, capitalists on their skills to feed themselves and their young. That's the natural way.
You think penguins are capitalists?
Why don't you let me finish my point?
Because you've just said that every living animal on the planet is a capitalist.
Look, you're a typical socialist who wants to shut everybody up who doesn't have the same ridiculous opinion that you have.
I think I've let you speak quite a lot.
I'm sorry?
I've let you speak quite a lot, haven't I?
Well, I've got a lot of points to make. But the point is, the point I'm trying to show is that your opinion is flawed, fundamentally flawed, like all socialist opinions are ridiculous.
I'm not the one on the radio saying that butterflies are capitalists, mate.
I'm trying to tell you why it's absolutely flawed. And the reason is the socialist then comes along and says, no, the natural way is wrong. I'm going to act as dictator and tell everybody what money people can have and when.
Never been a right-wing dictator, has there, Keith?
Oh, no, not really, no.
Oh, no, come on. Come on.
I'm just really angry to listen to this socialist Thatcher that's going to destroy this country again if that idiot Keir Starmer is going to get in power.
Keith.
Because they don't live in reality, they don't understand the issues, and they will say anything to get in power. And if they get in power, this country is doomed.
Keith, will you be voting for Rishi Sunak?
Sorry?
Will you be voting for Rishi Sunak?
Well, of course we're voting Conservative. Any sensible person would who's got a brain.
You're coming across as a very sensible person right now, it has to be said. There's your tip. Do we call that your it's too much, isn't it, for me to say that's your median Conservative voter? There's only about 20% of them left in the country. I mean, maybe that's the type they are. Look, I'll be honest. If you want to come on here and mount a reasonable and sensible defence of Rishi Sunak, I will permit you to do so. Hell, I'll even give you as much time as I gave Keith then. I will give you that time. You will be permitted to do so. But to suggest that I'm the ridiculous one when you're on the radio saying that rhinos and butterflies are capitalists, I think it's a tricky one. Just don't look. You can defend Rishi Sunak all you want. But just don't come on here and tell me that the horses are capitalists. All right, we all know they're socialists deep at heart. Some of these suggestions for capitalist animals are utterly brilliant. So I'll go through a couple of them now. Richard texts in, that rapacious baron of industry, the goat, is clearly the most pernicious capitalist in nature. Bob, Ollie, it's the golden eagle. They float above the populace, swoop in silently, take pretty much whatever they want, and soar away with no consequences. Quite capitalist energy, isn't it? No name on this one. Lions are the kings of the plains of Africa, but they only kill what they need. Not like capitalists who store what they can't consume. That's very much on the theme of Stu from Evesham, who suggests cuckoos and magpies. And in St Albans, the most ruthless and successful animal, apart from a human, is a rat. I'm inclined to agree, actually. And finally, slightly off topic, but we'll accept it nonetheless. Gary texts in, most Dagoos are Freemasons. Which I didn't know, but I'm all the better for that knowledge. Thank you. Scott's in St Albans. Scott, what's on your mind?
Well, I haven't changed my mind, and I'm absolutely behind Israel, because, by the way, the fence and the wall between Israel and Gaza is not to keep Gazans in, it's to keep Gazans out of Israel as a defence, but unfortunately it was rather easily breached. But as far as the Israel attacking Gaza, it's well known, I think, that they've dropped hundreds of thousands of leaflets warning civilians to get out of North Gaza.
Scott, could I just ask you, sorry, can you keep the phone a little bit closer to your mouth? You're coming in and out a little bit.
I'm sorry.
That's better. That's much better, mate. No, go on.
Oh, good.
Go on.
Yeah. So they've apparently they're able to contact people by messenger, and warned people to get out of the way of the fighting in North Gaza, but it's well known that the Hamas have tried to prevent people from leaving by shooting. They've often, pretend to saying they're going to shoot them, so they stop people from leaving, using them as human shields.
So why do you think so many children have died in this conflict, Scott? If they're being warned,
the only figures we're getting are from Hamas of the casualties.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is
no way of knowing.
Yeah, it is a Hamas. The health ministry is run by Hamas. But so broadly speaking, the UN does say that in previous instances, the figures that Hamas report are relatively close to the figures that they come up with when they then independently verify them.
UN, the UNRWA organisation, which is United Nations sort of works agency or something acronym, it's been entirely taken over by Hamas, so all the people that are employed by it are in fact Hamas supporters.
Hamas has taken over the UN. Right.
Have you seen the literature that they teach in the school, the UNRWA schools for the children?
You'd have to be more specific.
It's to kill Jews. They've got cartoon, little.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sorry to say this, but the children are indoctrinated from an early age. They have summer camps.
Scott, I don't have knowledge of what you're speaking about.
Well,
and
I found out all this. I found it out all
we'll look into it on our side, and we'll come back to it, because I can't speak to whether or not that's true. I'm afraid. But what I'd like to know about, and actually what I'd like to drill down into is you said earlier that you haven't changed your mind on this, and that you're on the side of Israel. I'm interested in that mindset and that belief that there's almost a side to be taken.
Yeah. Well, because the Hamas charter is to destroy every Jew, and they want, from the river to the sea. You've heard of that, haven't you?
Yes.
Well, that means that they want all the Jews out of Israel, one way or the other.
Scott, I hear what you're saying, and that Hamas's stated aim is the destruction of the state of Israel. There's no denying that. And
how can you have those as neighbours?
Well, quite. And then similarly, you've got Israel also destroying Gaza, flattening it. And I just wonder if you can see any common ground between those two positions. And as as a human being that opposes, an organisation like Hamas that says its stated aim is to destroy the state of Israel, and you can see how wrong that is and how provocative that is. Does the same extend to when you see the images of, whole districts in Gaza completely flattened?
Yes, I've seen that.
So does your compassion extend in that direction as well?
Well, the people wouldn't be killed if they'd moved out of North Gaza, would they? They were advised to do it. They weren't commanded. They were advised.
I do have to sort of push you on that point, Scott, because I think it's. Yeah. I think I'm not trying to be sort of malicious or vindictive in this. That I feel like if someone's dropping a bomb, we sort of have to lay responsibility for the consequences of that bomb exploding with them, rather than the people that didn't move out from underneath it.
Why are the people still there?
Could be all sorts of reasons. I don't know.
If you knew someone was going to drop a bomb on you wouldn't want to stay, would you?
No, of course not. Of course not. But
that's what they're doing. But why?
Well, very good question. But let's say they have nowhere else to go. It's not easy for someone to leave Gaza, as I'm sure you well know. But
they were told to go to South Gaza.
Yeah. And now that Israel,
it's only 25 miles long, I believe, something like that.
Yeah, it has one of the densest.
It's not far to move away.
Gaza has one of the densest highest population densities of anywhere in the world.
Well, they're doing well then, considering they're being apparently starved by the Israelis.
Scott, can I ask why you're sort of your default position is one of disbelief or animosity towards the Palestinian people there?
Well, because they voted for Hamas when they had an election. They voted for Hamas as a terrorist organisation. They knew that. And look at the support.
You know the Arafat quote. You know the Arafat quote, right? One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. I'm not saying I'm not saying their position is right, to be absolutely clear, but I'm saying you must be able to understand the difference in perspective. You must be able to understand how they see it.
Yes, so they would see it that way, but then the world is trying to. Some countries won't accept that Hamas is a terrorist organisation. They won't say it. Well, the BBC had a job saying it, didn't they?
Yeah, I struggle with. I don't think the way the BBC reports it is. It's a tough one.
Not just the BBC; it's the United Nations. Look how many countries in the United Nations are sympathetic to so-called Palestine.
What do you mean by so-called Palestine?
Well, because they don't have. There is no country of Palestine. They're mostly
what's the reason
Jordanians.
For
that? Because it's a made-up thing by.
You see,
Arafat.
Scott, this starts with. The longer we're talking and we're drilling down into your beliefs, and we're saying things like Palestine doesn't exist, or it's made up, or they're Jordanians.
Well, yes, it's true. Look. How is it that no country wants to take any Palestinians from Gaza? They won't. Egypt won't accept them.
Well, Scott, I'd probably suggest that I think it probably has quite a lot to do with the fact that if they were to leave Gaza, if they were to leave the West Bank, then those areas would be settled in the way that the West Bank already is, with its illegal settlements, and that if the Palestinians were to leave, they wouldn't be able to return, as has been the case with much of their land since 1948.
Well, do you know that I think it was either 6,000 or 10,000 Jewish people were actually pulled out by the Israeli government out of Gaza in 2005 as a peace deal, an appeasement to the Palestinians, and they left behind a thriving industry of greenhouses, which was producing wonderful amounts of food. And the thing they did next day was to wreck the whole lot, just because it was built by the Jews. So there are no Jews in Gaza now, apart from the soldiers, of course, but there were no Jews in Gaza at all. If anyone calls about an apartheid state, well, that was Gaza.
Scott, is there anything that could cause you to have more compassion for the Palestinian people?
Yes, if Hamas surrendered, there would be any killing would stop immediately.
I think it's is it Golda Meir? I'm paraphrasing it, but it's if the Arabs put down their guns, there would be peace. If the Jews put down their guns, we would be destroyed, or it's something like that.
Yes, and also she said if the Palestinians thought as much of their children as the Jewish people did, then they wouldn't.
Scott, thank you for your call. This is kind of what I'm getting at, though. This is what I'm driving at. Why does this conflict evoke such polarisation, certainty, and I've got to be honest, dehumanisation? That's what I hear when Scott says there's no such thing as a Palestinian. Thank you for your call, though, Scott. It's interesting to hear your perspective. Let's go to Denise in Hadera in Israel. Denise, good morning. Thanks for joining us. So if Israel is found to be committing genocide in Gaza, how should the West respond? Should the West change its position at all?
Well, it's the only genocide in the world where the population has gone up fourfold. If it happens, which is why it hasn't happened. You asked a question, how do you feel when people waving white flags are shot? Well, I think we have to ask the Irish after Bloody Sunday. It took over 20 years for that to come in. We think of Desmond Tutu. Desmond Tutu's comments. There is only one area in this whole point where people have been ethnically cleansed, and that is when the Jews were ethnically cleansed from Gaza to make peace. The Israeli army withdrew Israeli civilians forcibly. It was tearful, it was painful, but to make peace, Israel withdrew. Israel was not there. We look at proportionality. The same proportion, looking at the size of our population, if that had been proportional, then on 9/11, over 55,000 Americans would have been slaughtered. Do you know how many Americans would have had to have been raped upon that day? Do you know how many Israeli women were raped? I've heard certain British presenters coming out with things that are obscene. But I just wish to tell you the story of one woman. This one particular young woman was filmed by Hamas. Their film has been found. She was taken. She was raped from behind repeatedly. Every time she winced, a knife was stuck in her back. I wonder what her proportionality is. The word proportionality is only used for Israel, and for no one's press more mention the fact that we had been bombed for 3 weeks from Lebanon when Israel.
For you, so if you need to take time and take a little pause, that's absolutely fine. There's no limit. Thing as proportion. There's no limit.
Well, when I say there is no limit, could you please say to me how the bomb because we want to bomb.
For those listening that aren't familiar what Denise is referencing to, she's talking about the firebombing of Dresden, which was a deliberate act by the RAF to not only destroy the city of Dresden, but kill as many of the civilian
world. and I know some people will be choking when they hear that, but there are reasons, is because when the Israeli army bombs an area, before it bombs an area, the people who live there are leafleted in the correct language, in Arabic, telling them when and where those bombs will be falling, because what...
Phone calls, I think, maybe possibly more made.
Now, can you tell me, does that sound like genocide? Does that sound like we're trying to kill? No. We are not living in January. We are living in October. And for many of us, tomorrow, which will be 100 days, we will all be there wearing stickers saying 100.
And
do you know how these people have been treated? Because when they come back and they're smiling, do you know why they're smiling? They're smiling because they're on drugs. They have been drugged, and they
Denise,
are told, if you do not smile and wait, please let me finish this sentence. Do you know what has happened to these people?
I don't necessarily know what's happened to these people, but I just say, Denise, it does have to be a two-way conversation, and you do have to allow me to come in and ask you questions about this. And I just want you've referenced,
Did they?
you know, yes, they did. I can read it. I can read it to you right now. America asks that you take immediate heed of what we say on this leaflet. We're in possession of the most destructive explosive device ever grimly accurate.
Okay, but did that say where and when it was going to be dropped? You see, Israel says where and when, and we are not using atomic warfare.
This is after Hiroshima,
no, we do it before we bomb, and we don't use nuclear.
Nagasaki. It's before Nagasaki. I'm not suggesting.
So the people have been on so safe words.
Denise,
they provide at the beginning of this war. They provided safe roads from the north to the south. Please remember, they're the only country. Please let me finish this.
I have let you finish. I've let you speak a lot, Denise. The reason why Egypt, I think, refused to let many of the Palestinians through the Rafah crossing is because they are concerned that ethnic cleansing is taking place, and that if the Palestinians left through the Rafah crossing, they would not be allowed to return.
This is ridiculous. Israel has never ethnically cleansed anywhere on earth. Never. Apart from when Jews... No, I am engaging with you.
Okay, so...
Because what I am telling you is the border with Egypt is shut from Gaza. Please remembering, we are at a state of war with the government of Gaza.
It's quite
Hamas.
a few, yeah.
We have been at a state of war. When two countries are in a state of war, why is one country... the country that's basically being bombed, why is one country always expected to allow the civilians to come through? Do you honestly think that the Germans were allowed into Britain to work during the Second World War?
Denise, that's not really the argument that I'm making, but you were asking me...
1,000 people have been internally displaced in Israel. Did you know that?
I do now.
We have over 100...
Just because no matter what plight of the Palestinian people I put to you, you disregard it and point towards something else.
I do not disregard Hamas, and it is Hamas that has stopped them getting to safe areas.
So when
it is Hamas, and it is Hamas that should be on trial.
This is just my final question to you, Denise, because we're going to have to go to the news. But you know, you say that Israel's fighting Hamas. When I say that 70% of the 23,500 people killed in Gaza are women or children, are they fighting for Hamas?
When I tell you that when the British forces were in Afghanistan and Iraq, for every one terrorist Britain took out, 9 civilians were killed, does that mean Britain is genocidal?
Denise, it was a yes or no question, and your inability to answer it. And to be honest with you, the quite relentless way in which you sort of point to something else, and what about when I raise this question, I think is probably an indication enough about your engagement with the argument. Denise, thank you for your call. I appreciate it's a deeply, deeply emotional subject, and I'm sure it's a very, very difficult one to talk about. So thank you for calling me, and thank you for sharing your opinion. Andrew's in Bristol. Andrew, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I'd like to say I don't think anyone's changed their position, and it's very polarised. And I do think there are historical facts, and I think they're on the side of Israel, not the Palestinians.
Okay.
And that last caller was saying, like, Scott lied, that it's true that Hamas was voted in by the Gazans, by a majority of them, and that they're charged for genocide. And I don't know any country that would tolerate, like, say, imagine France. The people voted for a party that called for the destruction of England. We wouldn't tolerate that. Israel has tolerated having Iran, all the neighbouring Arab countries attacking it on several occasions.
I think that history, and I did try to address that history.
It's not a history, Andrew. Though. It's a constant ongoing threat that they face.
Well, I think from Jordan and Egypt, less so now.
But Iran has never...
Yeah. With Hezbollah in Lebanon, yeah.
And Hezbollah is on their border, so they do face a constant threat, which is unprecedented for any country. And in terms of the origin of the Palestinians, the first time someone called them Palestinians was in 1898, I discovered. Someone called Khalil Biddas. Before then, they were just called Arabs, and they didn't fully adopt the term Palestinian until 1960. I'm not saying they weren't in the region, but they have got. I think the whole thing has become like.
I don't know how instructive that is, Andrew, because we didn't have the word Israeli, did we? Until the 20th century. It doesn't mean that it doesn't diminish the claim.
Israel is recognised. It's recognised as being. In the archaeology of the religion of the region, it's in Christianity, and in Islam recognises Israel and Israelis. What I think is important, though, is I think there are facts, and I think it is mainly propaganda on the Palestinian side. And
I'm interested. That's an interesting one, Andrew. I'm not sure. To be honest with you, you could say that that certainly in British media anyway. That there's sort of propagandizing on behalf of the Palestinian side. I think you'd have to, looking realistically across the breadth of broadcast, certainly print journalism in the UK, I think you'd have to find that most publishers do fall on the side of the Israelis. Thank you for your call. George is in Leeds. George, what would you like to say?
Well, I, like thousands of others, worked in Saudi Arabia. I worked in 11 Arabic countries.
Okay.
It's the safest place I ever worked.
Unless you're gay.
There was no crime, no muggings, no stabbings, no drug taking, because they knew that if you was caught with drugs, it was immediate execution. And believe it or not, it's a great deterrent. I was born before the war.
Yeah.
And everybody that I knew, the factory, I did a 7-year apprenticeship. Everybody was what I call normal, boys and girls, men and women. I did my 6 years, I did my national service.
What do you mean by normal?
Well, just boys and girls, men and women. I never knew what an homosexual was until I was 27.
So, sorry. So by normal, you mean straight? You mean heterosexual?
Yeah, straight. Well,
Dearie me.
I never knew what one was. Actually, the first one I ever saw was in Nigeria, would you believe?
Right, and what year was that?
Oh, it must have been late 60s, 70s.
No gays before that?
Pardon?
There were no gays before that?
Well, not in Nigeria, but there was only one I ever saw. My bloke thought it was hilarious, so to roll up and laugh when they saw him.
Right.
But
okay.
I never knew what one was until I was 27.
Okay, excusing your own ignorance of the world, George. Let's just dial into the Saudi Arabian question. You said it's very safe.
You can also say Pakistan. You can also say Libya. You can also say
you can say all sorts of places. Yeah, absolutely. But Jordan Henderson didn't go and play football in those places, which is why we're talking about Saudi.
Thousands of us went out and worked in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
But English, Americans,
yeah,
the money was so good of it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think that's instructive, isn't it, George?
Pardon?
The money's good.
Oh, it was fabulous, and it was a complete different way of life. There was no stabbings. You could walk around.
No gays.
No graffiti. No rubbish on the streets. It was marvellous.
Unless you're one of those people for whom the very nature of your being could see you executed.
Pardon?
Unless you're one of the people whose very nature of your being, your sense of self, your identity, could see you executed. It's not safe for you, is it?
But there wasn't any.
What do you mean by that, though?
But there was everybody was normal out there. I call it normal.
I've got to stop, George. You can't keep saying this, mate. I've mocked you the once. How is it not normal? What do you mean?
But if I remember, in the Bible it says man will not sleep with man.
Here we go. Okay, religious fundamentalism. Religious fundamentalism. Is that what we're here for?
11 countries, I suppose it was all the same.
Your praise of the Saudi state probably makes sense in that context.
And I never saw one in Africa, would you believe?
Okay. Charlie's in Kent. Charlie, is housing unaffordable in modern Britain?
In my opinion, it can be, but I think we've lost a lot of motivation in our grown-up generation. Like, I'm 27 now, and I bought my first house when I was 25.
Wow, okay. What do you do for work?
I'm an electrical engineer. I'm on the railway. I didn't actually go to university or college. I just came straight out of school and jumped on the railway and sort of worked my way up as such. But my dad always instilled it into me. He said, you need to be sensible with your money. As you're growing up, as you get older, you don't want to still be working when you're 60 years old. So I've always thought about it like that. I've always worked hard and I've always been determined to save. And I managed to buy the house when I was 25.
Okay.
With my partner.
So you clubbed together, combined your incomes, combined your savings, and do you mind me asking how much was the deposit you needed to put down?
50,000 we put down.
So you saved £50,000 in 7 years.
Yeah.
Between 18 and 25.
Yeah.
Where were you living during that time, Charlie?
We were lucky. I was obviously living at home until I was about 21 with my parents, and then I moved into my partner's parents' house where they charged us very, very minimal rent, which then allowed us to obviously save. I carried on working through COVID. The railway didn't stop.
Yep.
So I was able to obviously save a lot more.
You're a key worker.
Yeah, as such.
And I guess as well during that COVID time, lower expenses, right? Because you're not going out and going to restaurants and things like that. So I don't doubt how hard you've worked, Charlie. I don't doubt that for a second. And the fact you were still going during COVID as well, absolutely should be applauded. You would recognise though that not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to, a spare bedroom in a parent's place, or to not be charged rent or something like that. It's that has played a part in you being able to get those savings together, hasn't it?
Massively. But I do think there's a loss of motivation to do better in our generation. Everyone's just sort of stuck in a rut.
Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that, Charlie, because it's interesting that you are of that generation, our generation, and you have that view, because it's one I typically hear from people who are older than us. But the fact that you're, you're 5 years younger than me, actually, and it's your position. So talk about that a little bit more for me.
I think social media plays a lot in it, because I think people hear each other moaning a lot nowadays about stuff that they can't buy, they can't do. So I think everyone's just influenced a lot by other people, and I don't think anyone's invested enough time in themselves, setting goals out to go out and actually achieve things.
Okay. And I think there's probably, there's a bit here as well with sort of an economic choice, right? Which is that people go on.
Sorry, I think there's a lot of people care too much about what they look like these days. They're too worried about buying all these fancy clothes and materialistic stuff that they're putting their money in the wrong places. And I don't think people get taught enough about in school about investing the money and how to push money further and stuff like that.
I think there's a choice as well, isn't there? Right, between you didn't go to uni, you cracked on, you got a job. Yeah. Did you get an MVQ or anything like that before you went and did your electrical engineering?
I got a level 2 in electrical engineering, but that was my company that put me through that.
An apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So, that's one decision, right? And presumably, maybe too, you sort of hung around in your local area. Well, actually, I assume you must have done if you were living with your parents, right? So it's where you grew up.
Yeah. Well, no, I actually, the company that my mum was on the railway, so she got me the job, and the company that I worked for, based in Essex, and I travel to London every day. So
got you. Okay, so there's a sort of an economic choice that younger people face, I think, which is between go to, I don't know, an urban centre or wherever, and possibly do get a degree and then go into, I don't know, let's say a sort of professional job, and that might be something like, I don't know, the creative industries. It could be in the knowledge economy, maybe as a lawyer or one of the other professions. And quite often that choice and pursuing that sort of line of work means those people opt out of property ownership. Because
it almost sets them back 4 or 5 years.
Because there's little prospect of owning in central Manchester, in central London or whatever, where those jobs that they want are.
Yeah.
Alternatively, some people choose to stay in their hometown, where they're from, get the job that's available. So it might be because you're in the orbit of London, you're able to get on the railway, and there's plenty of those kinds of jobs floating around. I know they are elsewhere in the country as well.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
But getting a trade or anything like that, and as a result, maybe not pursue the job that people thought of that they might necessarily do when they were younger, but as a result of making that decision, are able to own property, are able to get a nice car, because you're already 3 years ahead in your career by the time that those people have graduated uni.
Yeah, exactly. And I think universities is a trendy thing to do nowadays. People see the fun side of it as opposed to actual what they're going to achieve at the end of it.
Charlie, I'm grateful for your call. It's a very, very important and different perspective, it has to be said, from someone of your age. I've got to leave it there just in the interest of trying to fit other people in, because we're nearing 6 o'clock. But do call me again. I would love to speak to you a little bit more, mate. Stuart's in Edmonton Green. Stuart, what would you like to say?
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
About dental treatment. I had all my teeth taken out in about 2010.
Oh, right.
And it's the best thing I ever had done.
Stuart, can I just ask you very quickly to drop the radio behind you? I think we can hear a little bit of background noise whilst you're talking there.
So you turn the radio off.
Yeah, turn it off. Yeah.
Yeah, it is off.
All right, great. So, sorry, am I right to say you're nothing but gum? You got no teeth?
Yep. And people ask how I eat, and my answer to them is, how do you eat? I can eat anything. Have you got
dentures? Have you got dentures or anything?
No. I've had 2 sets. I lost them, and I couldn't get on with them. The bottom one's all right, but the top ones, they used to make me reach because the plating them.
So you don't have a single tooth in your mouth?
No, I've got a little bit of root that come through.
Okay,
that's it. I've no teeth at all.
I'm quite surprised, to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever seen anyone that doesn't have at least a denture or something in.
No, nothing.
Okay, and strong and good reviews. You'd recommend it to others?
Well, it's better than not being able to sleep for a week and taking painkillers like they were Smarties.
Okay, tell me about that then. So tell me more. Tell me a bit more about the situation that led you to where you are now.
Things that rot your teeth, medications, self-medicating, probably guess.
Yeah.
And my teeth just rotted, and sugar I have as well. I used to have like 8 sugars in my tea.
8 sugars in your tea?
Yeah, roughly.
God, that's overkill, surely.
Yeah, and my sister's got type 2 diabetes, and suppose I didn't get some max sugar, but that's not the subject. Yeah, I did have false teeth, but I just couldn't get on with them, so...
And would you? And you'd recommend it? You'd recommend it to others, would you?
Well, yeah. If my teeth were actually that bad, they were terrible.
Okay.
I had a sore throat after I come round. I thought, I've got a sore throat because they put tubes down my throat, obviously, because they had to put me under when they took them out. They took them all out in one go in hospital.
All of them at once?
Yeah, the dentist wanted me to 6 different appointments that I'm taking out in the dentist. No, I don't think so.
What was it like waking up the first time and having no teeth in your mouth? Did your voice sound different when you were speaking?
I had all stitches. I had a load of stitches in my mouth.
You had stitches?
Yeah, I just those all stitches.
So what, were you just on soup for a week or two or something?
Yeah.
Oh, Stuart.
Well,
I'm glad you're happy about it now, mate, but it sounds quite rough,
I was in that much agony, that much pain, just for,
Get rid.
It was really, really... I was going to the hospital as well. Going to Brent A&E, because the pain was that bad, like.
Mm. And what, so now you got no problem, you can chew on anything?
No, sandwich, if I eat a bacon sandwich or things like that, I bite, and I'm like, left with, like, I eat the meat, and like the bread's still there, like, a lot of the time. That's what happens to, like, sandwiches, meat sandwich, like, ripping bits, like...
Nothing claggy?
No, I can eat crisps. I can eat anything.
Oh,
like,
nice.
Normal crisps has got to be careful, like, they don't go sideways or anything.
What's your favourite flavour of crisps, Stuart?
Prawn cocktail.
Yeah, good choice.
I'm one of them funny people. I don't like prawns, but I like prawn cocktail.
Oh, that's slightly peculiar, isn't
I
it?
don't like tomatoes, but I like tomato soup, tomato sauce.
How are you with, like, a quiche or a flan? Does that go down all right?
Yeah, everything does. I can eat anything. Literally anything.
Anything?
Yeah.
It's just so long as it's not spiky.
I'm a very fussy eater anyway.
Okay.
I just got to be careful, that's all. When I did have my teeth, I was riding the bike once, and the fork snapped on it under the frame, and I hit the floor. I was in a going slow. I hit the floor with my chin, and the tooth that was in the middle at the bottom actually come through my lip.
Oh, yeah.
In between the top lip, come through that.
Mm.
At least no one can knock my teeth out anyway.
Do you often find yourself in situations where people do want to knock your teeth out, Stuart?
Well, yeah, quite a bit of time. I'm going to knock your teeth out. Yeah,
you're a troublemaker. You're a troublemaker.
Yeah.
Stuart, thank you for your call. Nice to talk to you. I'm glad you're living your best life now. You're a tooth-free best life. John is a first-time caller in Dagenham. John, what would you like to say?
Hello, Ronnie.
Hi.
I'd just like to say that I don't think he should be condemned at all.
Okay, why?
He's just gone out there to earn a load of money, isn't he?
Yep.
It don't mean his views has changed or nothing like that. I mean...
Well, his views might not have changed, but I think for a lot of people, their view of him has changed. You know, when someone speaks out on behalf of and in support of the gay community, and then is happy to go and participate in what is essentially sports washing, right? That's the purpose of the league. It's to give Saudi Arabia the cultural cachet and soft power to hopefully try and sort of wash off some of the stain that is the fact that you can be executed for being gay in the country. And they say that shows us that you weren't sincere when you said you would support us.
Well, I think he's just gone out to earn a load of money at the end of his career sort of thing, and that's basically it. Like.
He's sort of he's taken the cash and he's prepared to compromise his morals for it.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
And
yeah, but
John, what do you make of the argument that you know there's he was already on 140 grand a week at Liverpool before he left? Is that enough cash? You could say that he was pretty well paid beforehand, and he doesn't necessarily need to sell out.
Yeah, I mean 600 grand a week. Can't blame me for going out there to earn that for a year, can you?
You wouldn't say no to it, would you?
No.
Yeah.
I'll go there for 2 grand a week.
You're affordable. If anyone from Al Etifac's listening, you've got a potentially replacement central midfielder for Hendo here. John in Dagenham. What's your left foot like?
Not that good, to be honest with you.
Well, I suppose if they're paying 2 grand a week, they can't really complain, can they? John, nice to talk to you, mate. Let's squeeze in Philip in Christchurch in Dorset before we draw an end to this. Philip, what would you like to say?
People have a nostalgia because he takes us back to the 70s and all that sort of thing.
What takes us back to the 70s? Sorry, Philip, go on.
Jeremy Corbyn's sort of ideology of socialism and all that. Well, we've seen what that's done, what that did in the 70s. If I was alive then, it was all strikes, 3-day weeks, power cuts, dead bodies not being buried, rubbish piling up in the streets. Yeah, those were the good old days, all right. The only thing good about the 70s was the stuff on TV, which is better than the rubbish on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Affordable housing? That characterised the 70s, didn't it?
Well,
prospect of career progression, work security.
I was too young to buy a house in those days. I was a child, but I know about all the strikes and the power cuts and the television channel. There was only 3 television channels, and one was permanently on strike.
Right.
So you only had the BBC to probably watch.
Yeah. And that was good, was it?
It was an awful decade, apart from they didn't have all the woke agendaism on the television that they have nowadays.
Here we go. Okay, so if I'm being charitable, Philip, I'm gonna interpret this call as saying that different people view the past in different ways.
Well, you were too young to remember the 70s, obviously.
Very much so, yeah.
So
very much too young.
I was very much alive in the 70s, and I know what it was all about because I was there.
Yeah. I appreciate that. What was the 70s all about, Philip?
It was all about strikes, high inflation, unemployment, and the unions ruling the country, and it took Thatcher to sort it all out.
Sounds a lot like now, doesn't it?
Well, it was worse in the 70s, believe me.
Okay. And the other people that we've had on calling up and saying that they think about that time fondly.
Well, they probably weren't even alive then, most of them.
Kate certainly was. She was talking about it.
Well, probably too young to remember what it was all about, but I remember it.
So just in complete denial that anyone else. Are you, Philip?
Well,
are you the only person? No. Come on, no. Stop. Philip. Do you think you're the only person that remembers the 70s?
No, but it is common knowledge. It was a bad decade.
Okay.
It was a miserable decade.
And anyone else who thinks of it fondly or differently, they don't remember it. But you just said the television was terrible. You said you could only watch. There was only one channel.
The television was good. It didn't have all the woke rubbish like it has now. It was entertaining, the television.
Philip,
that was the only thing good about it.
Philip, what's woke about the TV?
What, modern TV? Yeah, it's all about agenderising, lecturing the audience rather than entertaining them.
What does agenderising mean?
Well, pushing agendas.
Right, like you are right now.
Well, no, I'm just telling you what the 70s was like.
Yeah. Well, I've got to be honest with you, it does sound like you have a little bit of an agenda.
Well, yeah, my agenda is speaking the truth.
God grant me the courage and the conviction of a single man, convinced of the truth. Philip, thank you for your call. Isaac's in Wigan. Isaac, good morning. Should we judge Jordan Henderson?
Morning. Hi there. I'm Isaac. Actually, on this topic, I wrote a paper in 2018.
Okay.
It's entitled, Does the Universal Human Right Exist? You can go on academia and search for Isaac Wakagoro. You'll find my paper there.
Sure. Okay. What would you like to say now, though, Isaac?
Yeah. What I want to say is, I think it is a kind of a trade-on. This has become like a trade-on ideology. When something we don't in the UK, particularly in the West, we don't try to believe that other society have got their norms and the policy they can implement that they believe to govern their society.
Okay.
But and we always tend to look at if it's not, particularly if that law is implemented by a country outside of the West, we dehumanize it and we take it, try to, in the sense of that, make that society to fail or to drain our issues and norms. So, for instance, if Joe Anderson is working today in Saudi Arabia and making his life, it doesn't mean that he is not still standing maybe with the community that wants to advance the ideology of gayism and gendering.
I think quite clearly, Isaac. I think quite clearly you can't say Isaac. I think quite clearly you can say that he is not standing with that same community. I think quite clearly you can say that if he's prepared to take the money from the Saudis where being gay is illegal. I think you cannot say that he still stands with that community.
No, I will give an example. Can you give me a chance? What about if today Anderson went to play in the US? Would you condemn him? In America, they still apply capital punishment, and which is not implemented in the UK law.
Well, this is a very good point.
Would you say that he would have done wrong?
This is a very good point, Isaac, because
the US?
I think the argument you're making doesn't necessarily add up particularly well, because you can't be executed for being gay in the States. But yeah, absolutely, we talk a lot, about the World Cup in Qatar.
Every capital punishment is still in the human rights law. It has been proven that should not be applied.
And if Jordan Henderson had been an outspoken advocate against capital punishment, then I think that would, yes, be a pretty clear case of hypocrisy. The point is...
It's difficult. I still think it's hypocrisy, because let's look at this, because society can be governed, and it does mean, if we, for instance, like in the UK, let's say, if you go around and shoot and kill the white ducks, the big one, the swans, you go to, I don't know how many years in prison. It's a bird that everybody can farm in their country and eat them.
I think we're getting a little bit off topic here, talking about shooting swans. I'm not sure I really follow the line of argument. Isaac, thank you for your call nonetheless. Shirley's in Birmingham. Shirley.
Yeah, hi. I hope the Lib Dems break through, because I do think they're more socially minded than some of the other parties, because I remember a Lib Dem leader saying they wanted to take housing benefit and allow people to convert that into maybe a mortgage. And that might help.
Shirley, can I? I'm just going to be honest with you about this. I hate the Lib Dems. Genuinely, and I feel very particular about using that word, because I know it's a strong one and I know it's emotive. But the raising of my political consciousness is the coalition government, and it's Nick Clegg making his promise to abolish tuition fees and doing a reverse ferret, tripling them. And one of my first explicitly political acts was attending those student demos. In what was it, 2010, 2011, must have been something like that. I was in sixth form, and I remember saying to myself at the time, don't forget what this feels like. Don't forget what it feels like to be interested in someone and then them breaking a promise to you and betraying you politically. And I said to myself, remember this feeling and don't forgive. And as a result, I sort of, in a way, to be true to myself, that younger version of myself, I've held on to that sensation. So, come on, make the case to me. Make the case for me why I should think about the Lib Dems differently.
It's more just to go opposite to the other parties, the Conservative and the Labour. They're doing very little socially. Like, one of my bugbears was hearing stories, from your callers about being born in, say, South London, and the council in North London won't house them. So you can't even move across London, and you can't move to London. So we do need a social change where there's at least government housing so you can move from one area to another. I do think it's dangerous that you can't, that there's no social programmes.
And you don't find it compelling? I think Labour pledged, was it 300,000 houses a year they intended to build? You don't find any of the other parties' sort of electoral policy offering on housing compelling?
I would like to believe Labour, but my worry about Labour is, will he being Keir, turn out to be like Blair, where Blair, I think, did so much damage.
Yep.
Like Labour saying things, I know most people are pro-Europe, but I'm not that pro-Europe, because I don't like the idea. I'll give you a quick example. 12 million people are here with settled status. I don't understand that. I think it's perverse and it's nonsense.
Shirley, can I sort of come back to you on this? I understand, your point about the Labour Party and the Iraq War, and the dishonesty involved in that. I think it's barely worth even going. You don't have to mention Boris Johnson's lies, because they are so complete and so extensive that his name is almost synonymous with lying at this point. So we don't have to go into the details there. But the example I just gave, about the Lib Dems, right, and their dishonesty in that sense. Why do you believe the Lib Dems more than those other parties? What is it?
I suppose I'm more, for me personally, I'm more living in hope. Okay. And not only that, I genuinely don't like the idea of closer to the European Union.
You don't like the idea of being closer to the European Union?
I know we've spoilt the trade, and we could have done something better. Like, for example, we could have given the farmers 200-300 grand each and said, secure our food.
Shirley, just on this point about the EU. You know, in 2019, the EU, the Lib Dems' stated position was to rejoin the European Union without even a referendum.
That's going to be... It's such a difficult one, because I want some social programmes, what I'm hoping for, but I don't like the EU, and so many parties want to go closer to where they are.
Right.
I know we did get good things from the EU, like trade, but like I said, with the 12 million with settled status, 2 million Albanians, Albania's not in the EU. I don't understand that.
Shirley, I've got to be honest. You're sounding more like a Reform voter than a Lib Dem.
No, other than the EU, I'd like council housing restored, and the NHS, more money put into that.
Yeah, fair enough. I understand the argument. Got to leave it there just in the interest of time. Shirley, thank you for your call. Let's go to Nzinga in Merton. Hi there.
That's right. Good morning. And I must say that our services in Merton are very good, excellent services from our government, from our councillors. But just to say, I think people need to understand you can't go back, you only go forward. So I would say that people need to examine what we actually have. There's a lot of very valuable services in this country that you don't get in many other parts of the world. I recently had surgery at St George's Hospital in Tooting, major surgery, which my sister paid nearly 10 grand for in the US. I was in that hospital, had all the tests, didn't have to pay a penny, and I'm here now able to speak to you because of that service. I'm very grateful, and I think people have become very dependent, and, you know, politicians want to get in, so they'll say anything.
People should be able to access...
or the Conservatives or the Liberals, people want to get in, they want their turn.
People should be able to access these services, right?
Indeed, absolutely. And we do.
7 million people.
Yes, we may have to wait.
7 million people on the waiting list right now in Nzinga.
Indeed. I was seen within a very short time, and I'm very grateful. But to me, some of the things that people moan about don't even exist. I was a health professional myself for most of my life. And there are very valuable services in this country, and we need to acknowledge them, give thanks for them, because we could actually... I'm not saying it's perfect. Nothing is ever perfect, you know. And that's really what I wanted to convey. A bit of gratitude for the services that we do have, and the fact that we're able to access and use them at will. We don't have to pay to go to the GP. Yes, we may have to wait.
Well... Look, I agree with you. We should all be grateful, Nzinga, for our public services, and none less for our NHS staff. But I'm slightly concerned that if you were working in the health service and suggesting that things that people complain about are a figment of their imaginations, isn't necessarily the most compassionate position to adopt. But nonetheless, take your point. Paul's in Deal in Kent. Paul, you're on the radio.
Good morning, Ollie. Nice to speak to you.
Morning, likewise.
So I'm 55, and most of my adult life, when I was working in the buses, I was a Labour supporter because obviously the Transport General Workers Union, Unite, etc. And I was I was a Labour supporter back in 2019, like many in this country. Were led down the garden path like herded sheep and voted Conservative. And I was one because I had no faith in the Labour Party. Now I have no faith in the Labour Party or any faith in the Conservatives because they're all business-led. They are the ones that run the country, and it's all... Well, it's coming to fruit, isn't it, how corrupt... That's a bit of a strong word, but how corrupt both parties are.
OK, Paul, stay on the line. I want to plumb this further with you. We've got to go to a break. We're going back to Paul in Deal in Kent. Paul, who is it that you politically support then?
Well, I believe in having a voice, so I'm going to, and I've joined up as a member, I'm going to vote for reform.
OK, go on. How do they give you a voice then?
Well, the stuff that Labour want to do is never going to happen. You know, a lot of the stuff that they want to do is going to be changed over maybe to a free terms. It's not going to happen overnight, whereas reform, a lot of the stuff that they want to do is going to change, you know, overnight by, like, stopping the boats and
So in terms of, Paul, in terms of, it's interesting this, you're saying you want to have a voice, right? And I hear that. But, you know, realistically, Reform have very little chance of getting even one MP in Parliament. So if they can't represent you in Parliament, how do they give you a voice?
I think it is a voice. So by voting for them, I think what they're doing.
Sorry, Paul. Just very quickly. You're sort of you're breaking up, and you sound a little bit muffled. I didn't want to interrupt you, mate, and I'll give you back the floor. But if you could just sort of keep the phone quite close to your face, and maybe if you're pacing, perhaps deep in thought, maybe stick somewhere where there's a good bit of signal. Let's bring you back in. The floor is yours, Paul.
Yeah, so I think voting for reform and stuff will be purely a protest vote. Having that amount of people voting for them will prove to the Tories, like they did with the Brexit Party, that people have had enough of this country. And I just don't want... I mean, Sir Keir Starmer's banging on about how much the Tories are wasted, which I agree. But do you remember when they got kicked out of power? What's the last thing they done? They left a note. There's no more money left in the till. You know, they're just as bad as each other. Absolutely horrendous. And they have both, over the decades, destroyed the country. So mine's going to be a protest vote. I'm not going to vote Lib Dem, because the same as you, I don't believe in them, and I think they're an absolute waste of time. And I'm stuck. I'll physically vote Tory, and I cannot vote Labour. I can't do it.
Have you voted Labour before, Paul?
Yeah, most of my adult life when I was in the transport business.
So you are a Labour voter who's turning towards reform.
I'm a Labour voter up until 29 when I had enough of them.
Paul, I'm really sorry, mate. We've got to draw a line under it there, because the line is just sort of breaking up quite consistently. Apologies, mate, but it's too unpleasant for everyone who's nursing their way through the morning. But I understand the substance of your point. Look, this note gets brought up a lot. Liam Byrne is the person that wrote it, the Labour MP, and it has to be said. It's a recurring joke among finance ministers that they leave that behind for their successor to pick up, and it has to be said, genius bit of sort of political comms by the then Tories, George Osborne and David Cameron in running it, because it's become such a sort of, it looms so large in our political consciousness, but it just has to be said, it was a joke, you know, and. In fact, I think the minister that made the joke, Liam Byrne, he was on Andrew Marr this week on LBC talking about it. And I just sort of finally put it to you, or ask you if you know who made the joke first, who started it off about the Treasury. It's Winston Churchill. It's not exactly a dyed-in-the-wool socialist. John's in Bahrain. John.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
What do you make of the conversation so far?
I'm a regular listener, but this is my first time calling in. So Happy New Year.
A pleasure, mate.
You're doing a good job.
Very glad to have you on. Very glad to have your first call, and I'm glad you're enjoying the show. What would you like to say?
I think we are just judging the guy for nothing.
Okay.
We are all hypocrites. Even look at what's happening in America with Israel and all this. We're not talking about that. This guy wanted money. I will do the same thing. If you need money, you go for it. I will.
Okay, let's find the price point then. So he's obviously gone. We think it might be, north of £500,000 a week. So for that money, you're selling out. You'll compromise your beliefs.
Look, beliefs nowadays. What is it? Look at what's going on around the world. Just look around you.
You must have some beliefs, John.
I do. I have some beliefs, but on this issue. The guy needed money and he went for it. So don't let's...
Tell me about what you think, John. Are you religious?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so do you mind me asking what denomination? Are you a Christian? You're a Muslim?
Let's leave that out of it.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that out of it. But let's just say I ask you to renounce your God. In fact, no, I ask you to denounce, not renounce, denounce your God.
There's no comparison between what he has done and what he has done. Comparison.
Why is it not comparable?
This religion, sometimes you are born with it and you continue, but
you're born with it. Like being gay?
Yes. No.
Oh,
I'm not gay.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't accusing you of being gay, John.
I'm just confirming the point, so I don't judge the guy.
What I'm saying is,
I'm married and have children.
Yes.
So what I'm just saying.
Okay, but there are other people who are, and they're born that way, and his advocacy for them was something that they felt very strongly and valued, and he was prepared to renounce it for money.
Look, this guy wanted money. That's my belief. He wanted money and he went for it. But let's just let the dying dog lie low, because honestly, there's no comparison. There's a lot of things around us. Look at what's going on in the world. Look at Biden. Look at Israel. Look at Hamas issue. There are a lot of issues. These are small things, because the guy went maybe now.
So what's the argument there, John? It's that there's other wrongdoing in the world. There's other moral
in the world. That's correct. Yes. So why?
And so we shouldn't care about this one?
No. There's bigger issue. But, why are we kind of?
If you follow that logic, that means there's only one thing you can ever care about, and it has to be whatever the most significant moral outrage is at the time, and anything else is irrelevant. We're capable of thinking about more than one thing at once.
We do, yes.
Okay, John, I want you to stay on the line if you don't mind. I want to come back to you. We're running out of time. John, we were talking about whether or not you chose to be religious. You don't think so. You think it was sort of part of you, and you were born that way. And you didn't think the same thing about people that are gay. Am I right in saying that? You think that it was a choice?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you choose to be straight?
No, I've been straight. I was born straight.
Ah. What's the difference, my man?
Yes. I was born straight, and so. But I don't judge
are other people?
Because we must live in this world without judging anybody.
Okay, but if you were born straight, is another person not born gay?
I'm not going to pass judgment on them. Period.
I'm not asking you to judge them. I'm asking why it is that you think they chose but you didn't.
I can't give you an answer on that. I'm not sure I want to answer you on this one.
Do you think that's because there isn't an answer? There isn't within the logic that you've outlined?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I think
because
people decide to follow what they want to become, and when they become it, let them be their master of what they've done. So I don't judge anybody.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking you to judge anyone, and I respect that you don't. But I guess what I'm trying to drill into is that the implication of saying that they chose seems to imply that at some point you also chose, to be straight.
No. I always been straight, so that's it.
Okay. So you don't judge them, and you don't judge.
Basically, look, with what's going on in this world, let me just overemphasize on this. People need to survive. So when the guy wanted to go to Saudi Arabia because his money, I've worked in Saudi before.
Okay.
I've worked in Saudi before.
Yeah.
So the guy needed the money, and he went for it.
But this is the thing, John. He had plenty of money before he went there.
But how do we know? Maybe he's depleted his fund.
Yeah, look, we
don't know that.
Look, we don't know his situation, right? We don't know his situation. But I think it's safe to say,
if he was to pack his stuff and go to Saudi Arabia, he must need the money.
If he was being paid £140,000 a week before he went there, I'd say that's a pretty good chunk of change, isn't it?
True.
Okay, John, thank you for your call. I think we're very close to realising some home truths there. Don't know whether we got there in the end. Ravi's in Isleworth. Ravi, you've got the final word on this. What would you like to say?
Yes. Good morning, Ollie.
Morning.
So I also think parents have a part to play for the future investments of kids. My son's 22. I'm 54. 20 years ago, we started to invest £25 in premium bonds. We bought him the odd PlayStation game, but not a lot. So now he's got the full allowance and he wins every month. And we were strict. We allowed him to enjoy growing up, but not every single month, buy this toy, buy that toy. So we have a part to play, and my son's quite cautious now, and he can easily go to deposit. Easily. So, it depends how parents are. And
so it's all about a good upbringing. That's what these people.
Absolutely, and every month only he wins a prize. I won't tell you how much though. But
so these people that aren't on the housing ladder, they haven't been brought up right. That can't be your position, surely.
Well, I wouldn't say that. But
it is what you just said.
If you look at the history, maybe their kids have been buying too much PlayStation games. I can say that.
No! How has it taken us 2 hours to get to find someone to come up with this nonsense, Ravi? It's impressive, to be fair. Maybe it's because there aren't that many people out there who actually think it, which I suppose should be reassuring. Look, we're going to move the conversation on now. Thank you for your call. Peter's in Hendon. Peter, what would you like to say?
Yes. Good morning, Oliver.
Morning.
I wonder, can you tell me how many Yemenis have been were killed by bombing? A total number of Yemenis killed during that the confrontation with Saudi Arabia.
It's hundreds of thousands, and
that's right.
About a third of the population was in such acute famine as a result of the bombing that they were essentially eating. Well, in some cases, people eating leaves and bark to try and stay alive. It's a very, very grim situation there.
That's right, about 500,000. So in Gaza, it's around the 20,000 mark. And we've got a long way to go before we need to make a moral stand on this.
Do you think?
Well, 20,000 as opposed to about 500,000. We got some way to go before we make a moral stand. And
can you explain what you mean by that, Peter? Because
what I mean is that the movement of trade overrides everything else. That's what I mean by that.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about, because that belief that trade overrides everything else, and we're sort of now, we're prepared to bomb the Yemenis as a result to sort of ensure and protect that. As you've just very, very relevantly pointed out, the Saudis and the UAE have killed hundreds of thousands of people in Yemen using our arms. The Israelis have killed more than 20,000 people in Gaza, and it's interesting to me that we decide that our red line is ensuring international trade, and that we're not prepared to sort of take a stand and try and mitigate conflict or get involved when thousands of people are dying.
Well, how can you mitigate it? I mean, when you have the Iranians stirring up trouble in so many different areas, in Hezbollah, in Lebanon, in Gaza, in Yemen, how can you possibly mitigate it?
Well, that's certainly the question, isn't it? Because I'd like to think that there's a possible world in which a stance that's based on liberal values and human rights can also sit alongside.
One second, excuse me interrupting, but you can forget about your human values.
Why?
Your liberal rights, your human values.
Why?
I tell you why. Because we're dealing with an evil in Iran.
Right.
And unless we deal with that, and we can't afford to pussy about, the world is going to go in the worst direction all the time. This is what you don't understand. Your human rights and your liberal values are not. It's not the answer. It's not going to deal with that. Don't you see that?
Well, I'd like to think that the point of difference between, let's say, a Western democracy and an autocracy are our human rights and our liberal values.
Yeah, but if we carry on like this, we're not going to have any Western democracies. Our Western civilization is crumbling. What we have to do is we've got to bring down that evil in Iran. Right. We can do it. I don't think we choose to do it. I think money is being made as a result of that regime being in existence, because there are people, the population of Iran, they're itching and scratching to get rid of them. It shouldn't be a problem. We did it in the past. In 24 hours we got rid of regimes, and if we wanted to. We don't choose to.
And what is it about human rights that stops us from doing that?
because our very Western democracies are crumbling a result of the human rights eating away all the time. Our Western democracy is in a state of collapse. If you can't see it, you must be blind.
Well, what do you mean when you say that? What are you talking about?
What am I talking about? I don't even have to describe it. If you don't know what's going on in the world,
I'm asking you to.
If you don't know what's going on in the world, then you have no business to do the job you're doing.
No, Peter, you can't just come on here and say
need to bring
the Western world is collapsing, and then when I say
we need to bring down that regime, that is the only way. Because
we'll get to that in a minute, Peter.
No, because this is the human rights.
Yes, we will. We'll get to that in a minute. You need to tell me that when you say that the West is collapsing and that Western civilization is collapsing, I'm afraid it's not good enough to simply say, well, if you can't see it, you're blind. You've got to show me the evidence for it if you want to make a statement like that. So what is it? Where is it?
We simply can't afford to carry on with all these human rights and liberal values because we're going down the plug hole. We have to take on Iran. If we don't do it, they will take over and we go down the plug hole.
So we need less human rights to take on Iran.
Well, not less. We need.
You did.
If your grammar was any good, we would have fewer human rights.
Okay.
Maybe you could improve your grammar, okay? and then come back to me, and speak to me. Okay, thank you very much.
Are you, Peter? Oh dear. He's quite all right. Oh, I'll drop that down. We won't keep listening to that. Not much of substance there, but certainly calling for regime change in Iran. I don't know how we achieve that without putting boots on the ground. So an interesting position from Peter. I don't think his grammar was particularly good either, for what it's worth. But this idea that we should suspend human rights and depose the regime in Iran, I think, is possibly not the most sensible path to stabilising the Middle East. I'd like to think we possibly have learnt our lesson from trying to do that before, but then perhaps we just don't learn them. John's in Holbeach in Lincolnshire. John, what would you like to say?
Yeah, well, a couple of points, actually.
Please.
You a criticism of yourself in one sense, or most presenters on the subject. You talk about extraction by landlords. But that's not true. The people who are doing the extracting are the government. I rent properties, and the bottom line profit I have to pay 40% tax on, right? So what the government could do is use that 40% to have a scheme, for instance, where they actually save money for tenants to potentially have the deposit to get their own property.
John, could we interrogate this a little bit? So what you're saying is that the tax that the government takes from you, that's a rent, but the rent that people pay you, the owner of the asset, to get access and to temporarily loan the asset, that's not a rent in your mind?
No, yeah, but the rent, the rent. Look, if the money I've got tied up in a property, if I put that in the bank and didn't have the property, I would get a certain amount of interest for doing nothing. Right. So when I make a profit on the property, and I can tell you the overall profit, if you're doing things legally, because a lot of the time what the presenters are talking about are the landlords who are operating illegally, either don't pay the tax, overcrowd the houses, and to have 10 people in a house. But when you rent a property to a family for a normal market rent, by the time you draw down, pay all the expenses and maintenance, usually on the average year, I would end up with about 6-7% profit, if that. And then from that, the government takes 40%. And then when the house is sold, if I were to sell it, there's an additional tax called capital gains tax, which is 28% of the increase in value. When you put all that together, the government are doing the extracting.
So, John, I'm really struggling with this. What's the problem here? It's you don't like being taxed. You want to be able to make.
No, I'm happy to pay the tax. Give it back to the tenant. The other alternative, an immediate solution is, take the tax I pay, and give it back to the tenant in the form of a rebate, but put a cap on increase in rent, if you like.
That seems like quite a circular way of. You could just reduce your rent, couldn't you?
Well, no, because. If I didn't have to pay any tax,
Okay. Well, I mean, that's an option to you, isn't it? That is an option to you. You could reduce your rents to such an extent that you didn't make any profit, and then you wouldn't have to pay any tax.
Well, I would be making a loss, because remember, when you've got a property, even when you've got a buy-to-let mortgage, 25%, you need a 25% deposit to get a buy-to-let mortgage.
John, can I ask you, we're just running out of time, we're coming up to the break here, so can I ask you to hang on the line? I'll come back to you on the other side of it. John is in Holbeach in Lincolnshire. John, I'm going to come back to you now. It's harder for younger people these days, isn't it, to get on the housing ladder?
Not necessarily. Depends what you're looking at.
Go on.
I can, where I live, in Holbeach, I can get you a 2-bed terraced house, new build or built within the last 15 years or so, for about 120,000.
Okay.
If you go anywhere in the country, any region in the country, if you go into Rightmove and you put in maximum purchase price, 120,000, 100,000, 120,000, a load of properties will come up. The thing is, a lot of the people want a house. They want to live in a Wimbledon or somewhere. If you've prepared, when you've
John, can I ask you, what are the jobs like in Holbeach? What's the economy like?
Well, it's good. People seem to make a living here.
Who are the main employers?
All right, Holbeach and Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire is a big place. There's all sorts of places in Lincolnshire you can go to. By just maybe 10 miles away, you might have to go to work. I used to travel to work 30 miles when I was living in the southeast, or more closer to London. What I'm saying is, this concept of extraction is being done sort of by the government, but they're not using the money in funding schemes or house building. All they're doing is spending it elsewhere. What they should do is, the taxes are taken from the landlords. They should have a scheme where they can help save deposits for current tenants, if you like, for those who want it.
That's an interesting idea, John. A tax break for landlords. I think. I
didn't say a tax break for landlords.
Oh, sorry. You think tax landlords more heavily to get the funds together to help people?
I'm not. No.
Oh, sorry. So what was the point?
The existing tax that they're taking from landlords.
Yeah.
The landlords still pay the tax, but but use the money to help the people get on the housing ladder, or to help people with deposits. At the moment, we don't know where the money's going.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. In a similar way, you sort of health and social care levy or whatever with the national insurance rise, you sort of put it to people and say you're going to get, this is what the tax is going towards. It's an interesting concept. Just finally, John, I'd like to interrogate the sort of the specifics of what you were saying about Holbeach, because I think, we can talk about specific places where housing, let's say, is particularly cheap or whatever. But if we take the average, right, if we take the average house price and the average earnings, and I tell you the simple fact that ratio, right, of average earnings to average house price, for 80 years, it was 4, right? The average house price was 4 times average earnings between 1910 and 1990. And that is now 8. It's doubled.
Yeah, but
and as a result, go on.
the average figure is distorted because all you've got to do is
the average is the average,
like London, and it distorts all the figures.
Well, yes, exactly. So the average UK property, it takes 13 years to save a deposit, and in London it takes 30 years.
No, well, I can tell you.
Yes.
I can tell you. You can go anywhere in the country, and the further north you go, Scotland, are they all starving and not working in Scotland? I can get you a 2-bedroom flat in most areas in Scotland for about £60,000 or £70,000.
Anyone in Scotland who's listening, do give us a call and let us know if you had dinner last night. I guess the idea, John, is that, you know, whilst living in the Highlands might be, make things slightly more affordable.
Birmingham, you could look. All you've got to go is go onto the internet, onto Rightmove, the property sale site, and it comes up with you can put in a figure for any region, and you say as to how much you want to pay the maximum, and properties will come up. It won't be necessarily house; it'll be flats. But what I'm saying is, to get your foot on the ladder, you've got to be prepared to go for a cheaper area, cheap or a flat, not a house.
No,
and even in London, even in London, you can get you could probably get a flat for about 180, 200. You would in East End, and you would be able to get properties. In fact,
I understand that, John, and it's always been the case, right, throughout all of our history, that there are places that are more expensive to live and there are places that are less expensive to live. But the point is that the gap between what wages and house prices has widened dramatically. That's the point I'm making. I'm just going to have to draw a line under it there, because I think we're sort of we're going in circles a little bit. But thanks for your call nonetheless. Good to talk to you. Tony's in Doncaster. Tony, what would you like to say?
Well, Ollie, there's two sides to this issue, really.
Okay, what are they?
Well, the first side is that my brother, he had an aquascutum suit.
Oh, yeah?
And he always promised that he would give me it, because I used to admire this suit so much. Well, I got the news one day that he'd actually passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I thought, well, I'm going to get my suit. Now, when you know...
Sorry, Tony, was that the first thing you thought?
Well...
when you heard of your brother's passing?
Listen, when I tell you about my brother, you would think the same if he was your brother, okay?
Really?
Yeah, you would.
What's the story there?
When I went to the chapel arrest to have a look at him, he was in the box, all ready to go, and he was wearing the aquascutum suit.
Oh, that's selfish, isn't it? Wearing his best suit to his own funeral.
And I said to him...
give it to you.
I said to his missus, he always promised me that suit, and she said, well, she says, after that business over the Bridgecraft suite, you had no chance of getting your hands on that suit.
Come on, then. What's the story behind the Bridgecraft suite?
Well, I used to be in the furniture business, you see.
Okay.
When I was working, and Bridgecraft make very expensive lounge suites.
Lovely.
And he came to see me one day, and he said, "What is that there? What kind of suite is that?" And I said, "It's a Bridgecraft." He says, "Can you get me one of them? Can you get me one? Can you get me one?" Yeah. I said, "Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah, I could do, but 18 weeks delivery. And I'll have to be paid up front because, I don't want you changing your mind. I don't want to have two of them." And anyway, months went by and he kept ringing up and saying, "Have you got the suite?" I said, "Well, you haven't paid." Because he never did pay. And I never ordered him one.
And he never forgave you?
Well, the thing is, my brother wouldn't give me a boil if he had a face full. He was one of them.
That is a turn of phrase I've not heard before, Tony. That's good, that.
Well, that's what he was like, anyway.
Okay, and clearly wouldn't give you a suit even after he died?
No, so anyway, the thing is, in a crazed...
Yeah, back to the topic at hand. Back to the matter at hand, please.
Sorry?
I'm just saying, yes, let's get back to the matter at hand.
Yeah, so in a fit of grief and wanting to get my home back, I went to Harvey Nicks.
Right.
And I bought 3 Aqua Scutum suits.
Yeah.
After he'd gone.
Okay.
And the next time, I knew I was going to see his missus. I made a point of wearing one of these Aqua Scutum suits.
You're quite this is quite petty, Tony.
Yeah, very petty.
At least you're self-aware.
Very petty. But, it gave me a fleeting feeling of how he would feel about me, you see.
A fleeting moment of happiness. A transient moment of happiness. Yeah. Okay, so what side of the coin does this story represent?
Well, it's Aqua Scutum don't make fast fashion.
Yep.
But there's other ways that you can derive some sort of, obscure enjoyment from them.
Yeah, absolutely. There are other ways of deriving enjoyment from them. If you have some kind of inheritance-based vendetta against your brother, and you exact vengeance on his widow. Tony, thank you for your call. Lovely to talk to you. That's not what I expected to go for. Simon's in Bristol. Simon, what do you think? Should we judge Jordan Henderson?
Hi, good morning, Ollie.
Morning.
Interesting conversation. I'm a gay man.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me one way or another.
Really?
I'm also a football supporter as well.
So tell me why it doesn't bother you. Presumably Saudi Arabia's position on gay rights does bother you.
Well, it doesn't affect me.
But you're capable of extending your understanding beyond your own experience, though, right?
No, I'm capable of empathy.
Yeah.
And I can understand why there's such outrage.
The fact that that their legal system permits them to kill people for being gay.
Yeah, but as you said, in this country we sell them billions of pounds of arms.
Absolutely, we do.
We just recently with the Americans bombed Yemen.
Yep, we've picked up where they've left off.
Yeah. Didn't we support the apartheid regime in South Africa?
We did.
So this country has supported practically every dictator there's ever been.
Absolutely. And actually, I think opens up very valid questions that have to be asked about America hosting the next World Cup.
Yeah, especially Trump could be president.
Especially if Trump's president. But yes, no, for sure. Yeah. We spoke a big game about Qatar, didn't we? We spoke a big game about Qatar, and there's very valid and legitimate questions about America to be asked, particularly in relation to abortion rights, particularly in relation to racism in the justice system, all of which very valid things to talk about. But that can be true. That can be true, and our criticism of Saudi Arabia can still stand, can't it?
Oh yeah, we got every right to criticise every country.
Okay, so
that we don't agree with.
Presumably,
if you don't agree with them, don't do business with them.
Okay, and so Jordan Henderson, being an advocate for the LGBT community, doesn't presumably agree with gay people being put to death for being gay. So he's done business with them by going and playing football over there.
Yeah, I don't agree with capital punishment anyway. Full stop. In any country, it doesn't work.
Sorry, say that you don't in capital punishment. You don't believe in the death penalty?
No, absolutely no way.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. I mean, look at America. They've got a death penalty. They've got one of the worst murder rates in the world.
They do. But I'm interested in this idea, Simon, that you as a gay man don't necessarily have a problem with Saudi having the death penalty.
No, I do have a problem with Saudi Arabia, but I don't have a problem with Jordan Henderson.
Why?
Because as a lot of other callers have said tonight, guys come to the end of his career, he needs to make money.
He's made his money though. He was paid 140 grand a week.
Yeah, but these footballers they want more and more and more. Nothing. There's not for them. No money is enough.
Is that all right?
For them, possible. For me, no. Because I've got, I live with my partner in a small pokey flat. We don't have a lot of money, but we're comfortable. We're happy as we are.
There has to be a limit.
If I suddenly won the lottery tomorrow,
yeah,
I wouldn't know what to do with it.
But there has to be a limit on greed, right? Like we can't just say, "Oh, we'll earn forever."
Hang on, a limit on greed. Oh, Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta.
Yeah. Bill Gates.
Yep.
Jeff Bezos.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, they give a lot of money. They do obviously put a lot of their money into charitable enterprises.
I'd much rather they just paid their taxes, Simon.
But they still want more and more money.
Yeah.
You are never going to get away from greed.
Can we aspire to, though?
Well, when you've got half of Africa starving? No, of course we can't aspire to it.
What do you mean? Surely, that's the reason to aspire to it. Surely the reason to aspire to it is they don't need all that cash, and those people do.
Yeah, you're not going to change anything.
Oh, that's defeatist.
No, with all the good word in the world, if I could have a magic wand tomorrow or tonight, this morning, and take away half of their money and give it to someone who deserves it, what's going to change? Because they'll still make more and more money.
I don't follow the argument. What do you mean?
Well,
you can make people's lives much better. Much better. Simon?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I see that point of view.
So,
yeah, but you're still going to always have people who want more and more and more.
Right.
Some people will always take. Some people will always give.
So let's tax those people, right? Let's tax them and redistribute, and they can keep on earning. They can have a bit. They can't have all of it, and we'll use the extra to lift other people out of poverty. What do you say?
Well, they'll just find more ways of getting more expensive accountants to get around the system.
I can't handle the pessimism. I really can't. Simon, thank you for your call. Nice to speak, but we have to do something. We don't just take it lying down, do we? Patrick's in Watford. Patrick, good morning. Should we judge Jordan Henderson?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I agree with his manager. Right. Who says he still doesn't support the LGBT?
Well, I suppose...
What about...
Well, I suppose when you go to Saudi Arabia, where being gay can be punishable by death.
Yes, among other places. What about Beckham? He went to Qatar. Isn't it the same there? He got 10 million for two weeks' work. What about Ronaldo? What about all the golfers that have gone to Saudi and are making absolute millions? Rory McIlroy was against them. Now he's with them because he said they might be all as well off as him and the other chap that broke his legs in the crash, or whatever his name is. But no, he made a decision. He went there. It obviously hasn't worked out, so he's coming back.
I suppose the difference, Patrick, is that none of those people have been as vocal and explicit in their support for LGBT causes, and as a result, his participation in the Saudi Pro League demonstrates the hollowness of that support and calls into question whether actually he was serious about it in the first place.
Well, actually, not a suspect, but a dispute there. Who's to know that he doesn't still feel the same? The decisions are completely different. He must still feel the same about the LGBT, and that's another decision to take his life to Saudi to make loads of money. Obviously, something went wrong. It didn't work out, so he's coming back.
But by going to Saudi, you're implicitly giving your support, right, to the league, which you have to understand is a construct of the state. Mm-hmm. 4 of the teams are owned by the Saudi state. It is a very explicit and I think quite simple to understand sports washing campaign. And so to sort of go and participate in it, you are lending your support and possibly your legitimacy and credibility to it.
Yes, they're not like who owns Man City?
Say that again, sorry, Patrick.
Who owns Man City? Man City Football Club.
Yep, Sheikh Mansour.
Then Arabs or they're from Saudi or wherever they're from. What about all the companies in this country and all the buildings and all the places that are owned by the Saudis? What about the people that work for them? The Saudis own nearly 10% or 10% or something.
Do you think that's wrong? Do you think that's wrong?
You cannot segregate one from the other. My daughter has given her entire life, Dr. Marion Duggan, to the LGBT community, women's rights and all that. If she decided to take a holiday in Dubai just to explore it, she's travelled the world, she hasn't actually been there, but she decided to go there. Does that mean she's 43 years of age, does that mean all her work since she was 21?
It's not quite the same, though, is it?
Segregate one from the other.
It's not quite the same, I don't think, because
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I don't think it is, because she's not one of the most famous people in the world who has profited from presenting themselves as an advocate for LGBT people.
Yeah, well, if you look LGBT and you Google her, she has written 46 books. She's been involved in 46 books, 3 or 4 she wrote on her own, supporting the LGBT community. So she got a doctorate. She got her.
Maybe we should judge her as well. Maybe we should judge her as well.
Well, why should you?
For the reasons I've just outlined.
In this country, for 35,000, they got a Queen's University in Belfast to study the LGBT community in Northern Ireland, and she wrote a book called Queering Conflict.
So, Patrick, if that person, or whether it's Hendo, whether it's your daughter, whoever, then goes to Saudi Arabia where being gay is punishable by death, we don't think there's a conflict of values, we don't think there's hypocrisy there.
Not as just for holiday, like she wouldn't go there to work because that's not her style. She's top job at Canterbury University. So
what's the difference?
If she decided to go there for a holiday, that's her business, isn't it?
What's the difference?
There's no difference. What do you mean, what's the difference? Like, she wants to go there she's travelled the world.
No, tell me.
She hasn't been to Saudi. How do you mean, what's the difference? What's the difference regarding what?
What is the difference?
Difference of what? Regarding what?
Between working there and going on holiday, what's the difference?
Well, there is no difference. No, right. no difference whatsoever.
There we go.
Ronaldo, what about Beckham and the rest of them, and all the golfers? They're making millions and millions.
Yep.
And there was a big uproar in the beginning. Now it's all died down. They're still out there.
I'm not absolving them.
2 weeks' work.
I'm not absolving them of that.
No, yeah. Anyway, that's my opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. That's my opinion.
Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah. We are entitled to our opinions, but they can be interrogated.
We can be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. It's my opinion. I think I'm right. So.
I'm not necessarily sure anyone listening to that would agree with you, Patrick, but thank you for your call nonetheless. James is in Edgware. James, what would you like to say?
Hello, good morning.
Morning. Show. Thank you, appreciate it.
Good. What I'd like to say is I believe that footballers have been put under an inordinate amount of pressure to do society's work. To answer your question, no, he should not be judged.
Okay. Interesting.
He should not be judged. He's gone there to make a living. What I would say is this: he probably should have had a bit more thought before coming out and supporting. I think he does support them, but sometimes you've got to hold back in terms of what you're willing to put out. Take Cristiano Ronaldo as an example. He didn't wear the One Love band when he captained Portugal at the World Cup. When he was asked why, his answer was, at the age of 37, if I have to demonstrate what I believe, then there's something wrong. Cristiano Ronaldo is loved in Saudi Arabia. Cristiano Ronaldo supports gay marriage, the last time I checked.
It's a bit of a cop-out, isn't it? For him to say, you know what I think, I don't have to show my support.
How is it a cop-out? He's gone to a country, he's gone to a country where he understands the way they live, their rules, their laws. What is he supposed to do? The country itself is not perfect.
Well, I guess you say, what's he supposed to do? I suppose you say he turns down the money, right? I suppose that's the thing. Turn down the colossal payday and
he never he never ever envisaged a situation where he would obviously be going there But having said that, you've got to be strong enough. You've got to be strong enough as an individual to say, look, I'm not going to get involved in this. This is not my area. I believe it wasn't on your show. I think Gareth Southgate was questioned on this as well. And he didn't criticise the boy.
I guess the thing is, everybody has their price, but that doesn't mean it's okay, right, that everybody has their price?
It's not... I think that's a very, very easy way to put it, saying everyone has their price. Yes, he's a wealthy man, or he was a wealthy man before he went there.
He's wealthier now.
Well, he is wealthier now. He's 33, 34. He comes to the end of his career. Got to think about this. He's got a family to look after as well. He's got a lifestyle. And I know many of us would love to have a fraction of that. But you've got to think about all these things as well. I don't think we should judge him. I don't think he's intentionally done anything wrong. I think
that doesn't absolve him of guilt, though, does it? Just because you didn't intend it.
I think the thing, if you want to say he's been guilty of anything, is allowing himself to get pressured into coming out.
That's an interesting perspective.
Well, I think so. I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think he... Well, I think he believes what he said, but maybe not enough.
Well, that sounds to me like someone who's definitely deserving of criticism. I've got to leave it there.